so we can get the folks behind.
Yeah, that's what I do. Guys, I know y'all focused already with that back there, but we're going to move it.
Can everybody come and rally around Jodey here?
Yeah.
Just right around here.
I can't afford to ramble like I did for the last hour, so I'm going to try to stick to my points here.
Sure, stand out.
Yeah, I'm going to stand out up here.
Sure, we're different color.
There you go.
All right.
Have that sign far enough. I don't want to get Tim's face cut off. Can I move that over?
Yeah, go ahead.
Does that work? Okay.
Well, it's a new, big, and beautiful day in America, and the prospects of a better and brighter future are all the greater as we passed the one big, beautiful bill after 4 years of incompetence, lawlessness, and chaos, and a cost of living crisis, the likes of which we haven't seen in almost a half a century. The American people wanted new leadership, and they wanted a new direction for their country. In the most consequential election in my lifetime, the American people got their new leader by electing Donald Trump. They gave him a mandate, unified Republican leadership in Congress, and a clear mission: make America great again. The H.R. 1, or the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, is the most comprehensive set of conservative reforms in modern history and gives the president the tools and resources he needs to implement the full America First agenda and restore the American promise. The American promise of freedom, security, and opportunity for every American. This bill includes historic economic, security, and fiscal reforms. It provides tax relief to families and small businesses, invests the resources to secure our border and strengthen our military, and reins in wasteful spending and restores the dignity of work. It is a big bill, and it is a beautiful bill. It's big because it is the largest tax cuts, spending cuts, welfare reform, energy deregulation, and security investment in the history of the United States of America. And it is beautiful because of the good that it does for our country and our fellow countrymen. Because of this bill, people will keep more of their hard-earned working dollars. Because of this bill, we'll have fewer people trapped in poverty and dependence on the government. Because of this bill, the economy will grow. I believe it will boom, and we'll have that golden age and rocket ship economy that President Trump talks about, and prices will come down. Our immigration officers and armed service members will get what they need, the resources they need to do the very difficult and dangerous job, but the most important job, which is to provide for the common defense. Small businesses will get tax certainty so they can invest in our communities, and they can create better jobs and bigger paychecks. Families will get a tax break in the form of an enhanced child tax credit and baby bonus. People who get paid on tips will get a break. People who get paid for their overtime work will get a break. And seniors on a fixed income will also get a tax break. Listen, this bill is not just a bill that's a feather in the cap of some political party. The best thing about it isn't a win for the America First agenda. The best thing about it is it's a win for our country. And it's a big win for the hardworking, God-fearing, freedom-loving people of West Texas. You may be asking yourself, how is it a win for West Texas and rural America? Well, it's going to strengthen our ag and energy economies. And there's a list of things, opening up millions of acres of public land for leasing, both onshore and offshore. Streamlining permitting process for our energy producers, opening up ANWR, repealing the Biden methane gas rule that would be devastating to our independent oil and gas producers. The heart of the Farm Bill, which is the safety net for our producers, so we stabilize the ag economy, tens of billions of dollars in investment in strengthening the agriculture safety net. It supports our families and small businesses, as I mentioned, with much needed tax relief. It invests in our airmen who are here with us. I don't know if they're behind us, but they were in our meeting today, and their colleagues in the armed services. In fact, DIAS, which is a crown jewel for West Texas, and the men and women who serve our country bravely, we're awfully proud of them. And I'm proud to work with the Chamber and the Military Affairs Committee and the leadership of DIAS to make sure that we are on track for the seamless transition from the B-1 to the B-21. $4.5 billion in the $100+ billion investment in our nation's defense is to accelerate the onboarding of the B-21. And then I would say money to secure the border and enforce the laws of our land. We've had a president for 4 years prior to Trump who was derelict in his first duty to defend our sovereign borders, protect our citizens, and he took an oath to uphold the laws of the land, and that wasn't happening. And we had crime, criminals, drugs pouring into our communities, into this community. And you know, there was more than one report of narco-terrorist gang members who had infiltrated our border and our communities, set up shop, and were poisoning our family members and friends. And we were losing 100,000 Americans every year for the last few years, which is more than we lost in the Vietnam War. So I can't think of a more immediate security issue for us to address than giving the president the resources he needs, like 10,000 more immigration officers, tens of billions of dollars to complete the border wall, and other necessary tools and resources. Finally, this bill, the One Big Beautiful Bill, reflects the values of West Texas by defending our constitutional rights, by protecting the life of the unborn and supporting families and restoring the dignity of work. That is who we are as a community. I'm happy to take questions, but before I do, I wanted to invite some of the folks from the big country to say a word or two about this One Big Beautiful Bill and its impact in this community and in the great state of Texas. I'm going to ask my friend Stan Lambert to mention some things that he talked about in our meeting, especially with respect to reimbursing Texas. So it's an honor to invite Stan Lambert here, even a greater honor to serve alongside him.
Thank you, Jodey. Well, I just want to say thank you to Congressman Arrington for all the hard work and the hours that he put in personally to make sure that this bill was crafted, was created in his committee in the House under the Budget Committee that he chaired. It takes a tremendous amount of work on his part as well as his staff and so many others that went into creating this bill that we believe has so many good things that are going to be positive, not just for the country, but certainly for Texas and for this part of the state, for West Texas. I am particularly excited about the fact that the state of Texas is due to be reimbursed for the money that we have been spending over the last 6 or 7 terms that I've been in Austin on border security. I think that number is somewhere in the $10 to $11 billion range, and And we can certainly put that money to good use in other programs that are going to be beneficial to all Texans and certainly here in West Texas. A lot of things that are going to be on this special session agenda that I can already see our governor and lieutenant governor and speaker of the House that will be helping us decide what those priorities are going to be and how we can utilize this money to the best effect and productive use that we'll see. So thank you, Congressman Arrington, for your leadership. Thank you for all that you've done. I know you've been working on this for over a year now. It's a tremendous achievement. We thank you for your leadership in Washington and certainly here in West Texas.
Thank you, Representative Lambert. It's no small thing to take money away from Texas priorities, infrastructure, education, what would be tax breaks, property tax relief, because Texans had to foot the bill for the job that was abdicated by the last administration. And so promise made, promise kept, and it's the right thing to do, not just for Texas, but all the border states that had to take over on account of the failure of their federal government. We got Sheriff Ricky, as I call him. I call him Sheriff Ricky Bobby, but I don't want that to, I don't want y'all to take, that's off the record, Sheriff Ricky Bobby. Because he just keeps winning, you know, he just keeps winning. And that wasn't that his line, wasn't that Ricky Bobby's line? The sheriff here has, along with the airmen, like I said, the most important job and the most dangerous job. And it was made a lot more difficult and dangerous because of the open border policies of the last administration, I would say, not to put words in your mouth. Help is on the way. I think the spirits are higher, the morale is improved. They know they have a president who has their backs. I'm talking about law enforcement at every level. But you mentioned earlier that you've already seen a difference, and now we're going to put resources behind the programs and the commitments to enforcing the law, to detaining those who are here illegally, and deporting those who have no credible asylum claim or otherwise have been ruled here illegally. So, Sheriff, would you come up and say a few words about the security piece of this, at least as it relates to our border?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Sheriff.
So, Congressman's already covered some of the things, but prior to this, you know, the previous administration, it felt like an eternity of things that we were having to deal with. We were extremely busy, had lots of operations with our federal partners where we worked real well on trying to get these bad guys off the street. And just in the short time with the new administration, we've seen a huge difference already in just the amount of illegals that have come across the border and the amount of fentanyl that is coming to this area. Because as I've explained to y'all before, we've had the actual drug cartel here in Abilene. They've been here for a long time, and with the help from our federal partners, we've been able to get that reduced. And now with the help and all of Congressman Arrington's work on this, we are going to be able to have more of the resources and hopefully the funding that we need, because we have also applied to get our high-intensity drug trafficking area designation for this area, and hopefully we can get that done and bring some more resources here. And all this help and any other help is greatly appreciated.
Thank you,
Thank
Sheriff.
you.
Appreciate you. Look, at the end of the day, good government has to do two things very well: keep us safe and keep us free. At least at the federal government, I can say. Keep us safe and keep us free. Like I said, there's a new day. There's a new sheriff in Washington, and a sheriff that's been around but has been hogtied and hamstrung with the deluge of these the criminal activities that have flowed into our communities. So I think one of the busts you had, I read, these folks had enough contraband, or you seized enough fentanyl to basically kill every person in my district in Texas 19, just to put it in perspective. thank you for what you do for West Texas, Sheriff.
Thank you.
I'm going to stay on the theme of security, and I want to focus on our sons and daughters in uniform in the armed services. Because of our debt, because of interest now exceeding what we spend on defense, we're seeing defense as a percentage of our economic output and per capita drop to decades low, while our adversaries continue to make these investments. And I certainly don't think things are safer or more stable on the global stage. You have to have a commander-in-chief who projects strength, but you also have to have the means, and our men and women in uniform have to have the resources to do the job. We've committed monies for warcraft, for weapon systems like the Golden Dome, for replenishment of munitions, and by the way, an increase in pay for the troops and their families who are way underpaid relative to their mission. We are blessed to have now, as a new member of our Military Affairs Committee here in Abilene and at the Chamber, John Nichols, who is a Major General, a guy who's familiar with, very familiar with DIAS in the big country, and he is going to help us as we continue to make our way from here, B1 to the B21 and beyond. So General Nichols, we're honored that you are here 4 days on the job, and it couldn't come any sooner.
Well, thank you, Congressman. It is really great to be back in the big country and back here in Abilene, Texas. This is, in large respect, home for my family and myself. And the Congressman hit on kind of the high points of the One Big Beautiful Bill in terms of what it does for the Department of Defense. It really robusts the investment not only in current warfighting capabilities, but as we look to the future. I think DIAS stands to do very, very well by this bill. $5 billion toward accelerating the B-21, which is, as you all probably know, is going to be the nation's newest stealth bomber. There's been investments in improving our force protection posture at the gate. So, Congressman Arrington, thank you for all that you've done to increase the protection both at the main and the commercial gate out at DIAS Air Force Base. This is a big investment in the Department of Defense. This is a big investment across the Air Force, in the other services, and DIAS Air Force Base stands to do very, very well by all that's in this big, beautiful bill. So it's great to be back here. Thank you for your leadership as chairman, for all that you've done to put this forth. Thank you very much.
Let's give it up for our newest member of the team. Thank you very much. Glenn Pugh, good friend, small business owner here. We made permanent the small business 20% deduction. That's the comparable treatment with the 21% corporate rate. It's for pass-throughs, which are mainly your small businesses, independent oil and gas guys, mom and pop shops, family farmers. We made permanent the business expensing. We gave tax incentives for providing health care, family leave, and other benefits to employees, instead of creating new entitlements that are going to further bankrupt the country, entitlements we can't afford now. We thought it was best to incentivize our job creators and small businesses who have a tough time resourcing those benefits, give them the tax incentives and the support to do that. And as we all know, the small businesses are the heartbeat of our economy. They're the engine of job creation and innovation. So, Glenn, come up here and say a couple words. Glad you got a haircut for this august moment. This is, what's that guy's name? Achy Breaky Heart. What's his name?
Billy Ray Cyrus.
This is, ladies and gentlemen, Glenn Billy Ray Cyrus Pugh.
I don't quite have the hair he does yet, but Congressman, thank you
I'm
for.
going to have a nickname for everybody. Ricky Bobby.
Congressman, thank you for everything you do for West Texas. And as a small business owner, we've only been in operation for 3 years with Lone Star Tactical, and what they told us when we went to the Small Business Development Corporation was, hey, you're going to expect to pay about 37% in taxes. Well, that's huge. And most of the business owners that I know that started a business, basically out of their garage like we did, is that they have to have another job to be able to pay all those taxes, and also to pay their employees a wage that will make them want to come to work. And we're hopeful that and optimistic that this bill is going to help with some of that. And so, once again, Congressman, thank you very much for everything you've done. It's been a pleasure.
Good to see you again. Thank you. Yeah, had we not extended the tax cuts that expired, not only would every American citizen on average have a 22% tax hike, 26 million small businesses would have lost the reduction in rates and the 20% deduction to give them comparable treatment to corporations. That was what was at stake, among other things. So, okay, bringing us home, we got Tim Richards. We got Doug Robinson first. Doug has been a friend of Abilene Christian University and the Key City, and has been critical to a unique project with respect to the next generation nuclear energy and nuclear reactors. And that's about as smart as I can say anything about. I can't go beyond that, Stan, except to say I saw it when it was just a big hole in the ground. And then you see the reactors all the infrastructure around it and the smart folks at Abilene Christian. And let me tell you, nuclear has got to be a part of our energy policy for this country for all the obvious reasons. And it's been political that it hasn't. And in fact, in this bill, one of the credits on research in the nuclear space was extended. The only one I can think of, because all the other clean energy, if you will, and green energy was repealed. And so I'm proud to work in partnership with Abilene Christian and to have a successful business guy as part of the team to help guide this to success. It's been great fun. So, Doug, you want to say a couple words about it? You were also in the oil and gas business, and so you're probably no stranger to permitting and how difficult the NEPA process is, which is reformed in here. The wealth of assets our country has underground that were locked in for the last 4 years. Millions of acres have been opened up. The methane gas rule and all these other things that have really tamped down on conventional fuels and our lifeblood of the economy. You were a part of the industry that gave America not only energy independence, but the greatest, most robust and dynamic economy in the world. Doesn't exist without our energy producers. So you say something about energy that's smarter than my introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, 40 years in the oil and gas industry. In fact, 20 years ago, the hydraulic fracturing revolution that was happening in the Permian Basin did make the country energy independent. Transitioned somewhat unexpectedly into a nuclear project here in Abilene with Natura Resources sponsoring that project. Here in Abilene, we have the country's only advanced reactor facility, and we have one of only 2 construction permits issued by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission for the project here. We are attempting to do with nuclear what we did with oil and gas 20 years ago, which is to bring it forward in commercial deployment and answer really 2 of the infrastructure problems that face not only the nation, but particularly Texas. One is power. We're going from a 90 gigawatt grid here in Texas to over 200 gigawatts of power. With the growth, the energy demand, data center, the first deployment of Stargate is also in Abilene, Texas, data centers and AI. So where's that power going to come from? And also, how are we going to provide our defense facilities dispatchable, deliverable, dedicated power? The other is water. And in Texas, water is just as crucial as energy. The saying is, whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting. And our technology, our first deployment is in the Permian Basin, desalinating produced water, providing more water back to the inventory of Texas. Significant provisions, the research provisions you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, as well as other provisions that are going to do nothing but accelerate bringing this new technology to the marketplace.
And so appreciate everything you have done, are doing, and I'm sure will do as we continue to, again, replicate the Texas miracle that we did 20 years ago.
Well said.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Don. Okay, we'll just wrap it up with our God-given constitutional right to bear arms. So Tim Richards is here to talk about a lot of things are lost in this bill because it's so extensive and comprehensive, covers a lot of fronts, mainly the economic and security and fiscal reforms like generational welfare reform. But there are also provisions to protect the life of the unborn by defunding Planned Parenthood and other abortion providers who receive Medicaid dollars, and then protecting our Second Amendment rights. And there were what I believe unnecessary and constitutional restrictions on our firearms for almost 100 years. So this is a long time coming for people who believe this fundamental right is so great that we wouldn't be celebrating that 249th birthday recently if we didn't have it. And we aim to protect it, at least as long as you keep me as your congressman. So, Mr. Richards, would you come up and say a word or two about the Second Amendment provisions in the bill?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Congressman Arrington. This bill is, at first I wasn't expecting a lot of it, to be honest. But the provisions for moving the tax fees on the suppressors and short-barreled rifles and shotguns is absolutely huge. Not only for, you know, the guys that are the big collectors and shooters, but also for a lot of the guys that do security for churches, our farmers and ranchers that carry these weapons in their vehicles for use around the farm and ranch and their home. Suppressors are not what you see in the movies. I know the left loves to make it look that way. This is not James Bond. These are made to protect your hearing. God forbid anyone ever has to shoot someone in their house in the middle of the night, but if you do, you would really prefer not to blow your family's eardrums out. Short-barreled rifles. We have a lot of farmers and ranchers that carry these in their pickups, on their tractors. You know, as many of us know, we have a major feral hog issue in this town, or this country, state, excuse me. And they are much easier to use than a full-length rifle. Trying to get this thing out of a pickup window is not fun, especially if you do put a suppressor on it. So we have a lot of people that are actually avoiding buying these things because every one of them required the $200 tax stamp. That is cost prohibitive to a lot of these guys, especially our poorer farmers and stuff, that they want them, but they'll just do without them. So I would really like to thank Congressman Arrington and Donald Trump for kind of pushing this through. You know, the Second Amendment has been kind of the whipping post for the left for a long time, and it's about time that something was done about it, and this is actually a step in the right direction. So, Congressman Arrington, thank you.
Well said. Well, that will conclude our press conference, except Tim has agreed to take any of your questions. But he said if they're easy enough, he'll let Stan Lambert take them.
I guess, Jody,
Yeah.
this one big beautiful bill, what does it do for us, Abilene? You know, like Craig Griffiths over there, myself, Robin behind me. What does that do for us people living here in Abilene? What does that do for us?
It's the value of the permanent tax breaks for working families and middle-class families is the focus. So you're going to keep more of your money. After a 21% tax hike, regressive tax hike, on account of inflation over the last few years. So we've needed and are long overdue for a break for especially working people. That's it. Secondly, the preponderance of our economy is not big corporations, it's small businesses. Making that small business deduction permanent is a big deal, along with a lot of the other investment, capital investment, interest expense, R&D expensing, et cetera. So small businesses will get a boost. Ag and energy. To have the biggest problem addressed with the Farm Bill and with the ag economy, which is the cost, the input prices are too great for them to make a profit. Their fuel, their fertilizer, their seed. So the current safety net, based on the last Farm Bill, just is irrelevant. And we need a new safety net that reflects the realities of this economy, namely inflation. $60+ billion to do that. You wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't have been able to do it in a Farm Bill negotiations, a bipartisan Farm Bill. Wouldn't have done it. And we certainly wouldn't have done that, plus locking in the welfare to work, Bill Clinton era common sense welfare to work reforms that were desperately needed in SNAP. Those things just don't happen. Those are the two leverage points in a Farm Bill that make it difficult. We took them away and we addressed them. And I think we addressed them in a very responsible way, and ones that will help not only taxpayers, but also our producers. We went through the list of energy. Ag and energy is the lifeblood of our economy. I think we've seen a regulatory assault over the last 4 years on an industry in this country that has blessed us with prosperity, blessed us with a quality of life that is second to no other country in human history because of that freedom molecule that's extracted out of the ground that we call fossil fuels. And the list from opening up our nation's energy assets to streamlining the permitting process to repealing onerous and unnecessary regulations to repealing the Green New Deal tax credits that were distorting the market and making it even more expensive for our conventional fuel guys. So this is a big boost to domestic energy producers, but most importantly to American energy dominance. And that's going to affect everything from national security to our economic growth. We're at ground zero on the border, the chaos for 4 years. We heard from our sheriff about the dangers that have impacted our neighborhoods in this city with cartel members camped out dealing drugs in our neighborhoods in West Texas. This is the biggest investment in border security. So I think peace of mind for our families and a more secure neighborhood and a safer state should be job number one. And the president simply can't do it without the resources, and we've got them from boots on the ground to a completion of the border wall. And then lastly, and this is a long list, but it reflects our economic interest and our values. We believe that life is a gift from God. We believe that unborn Americans have the same right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, for the most part. I believe that. The majority of our citizens believe that. But the majority of our Americans and our citizens certainly believe we shouldn't allow tax dollars to flow to organizations that conduct abortions. And we stopped that. And the majority of Americans believe that that should be the law of the land. And now it is, for the first time, I think, probably since the 60s, since this Medicaid program was established. That and the Second Amendment protections, I think, reflects the freedom-loving, God-fearing people of West Texas and their values. And I think they probably believe, as I do, that our greatest contribution to America is not food, fuel, and fiber. It's the values that are the bedrock values of this community and all the communities in my district that were the values that made America great. And we'll never restore that greatness without returning to those values. So that's a list of the dots connected between why this big, beautiful bill is so important and in fact, I think a game changer to our economy, to our families, and our quality of lives here in West Texas.
I know one big worry that some people have, especially in our area, rural hospitals are going to be affected by that. What can you say about that and giving people peace of mind that live out in those rural communities that rely on those hospitals?
I've been working with and for rural hospitals for a long time now, almost 10 years. It's a challenge. They don't have the tax base. Their patient volume isn't enough to sustain their fixed cost, and so we need support if we're going to have a seamless network of safety net hospitals throughout the country. We did several things to support hospitals, rural hospitals over the years, but in this bill in particular, number one, I think it was CBO that said there would be billions of dollars saved when we prevent people who are ineligible and or illegal from benefiting from our social safety net. I'm not suggesting that we don't provide common decency and emergency services to people who are here. We've done that. We will continue to do that. But because of improper payment rates being what they are in Medicaid, I mentioned in our conversation earlier, $50 billion was wasted or fraudulently spent by the Medicaid program funded by tax dollars. So there will be billions of dollars saved there. And then the Senate, one of the features of the Senate we didn't have in the House was this rural hospital fund. It's $50 billion. It's significant. So I think as we transition from what we call the provider tax, which I opposed, I wish we would have done more to repeal the provider tax, but we reduced the amount of monies that states and local providers can utilize from the provider tax and direct payments. I don't think it's an appropriate way to run the railroad. I think it's wasteful. I certainly don't think it's directly tied to our most vulnerable Medicaid patients. Nevertheless, we struck a balance. That's what you do. And the Senate said, hey, this is, whether I think it's a good idea or not, these streams of money have been built into rural hospital budgets. So this $50 billion rural hospital fund is to help have a seamless transition off of the provider tax and direct payments.
One quick one just about the no tax on tips, because I know along the campaign trail that had become a pretty big talking point for President Trump. We have it now, but in kind of a different way. And so for the people out there who may have been in favor of that, but now didn't really get exactly what they were hoping for, what would be your response to them on that?
Well, it's the legislative process is not one for perfect outcomes. It's for good outcomes, and there are a lot of trade-offs. There's a cost trade-off. Tax breaks are also a cost, just like border security and defense. And we have to mete out good policy that helps working families today while ensuring we don't tax the next generation of families tomorrow, which is debt and the rising deficit that's now $2 trillion just this year and will double in 10 years. So it's a balance of competing interest, and I think that the president more than made good on his promise in principle for working people who receive tips as compensation, for working people who receive compensation in overtime. As I mentioned, seniors get an additional $2,000 in deductions, and families get more tax break for the kids that they support. We believe that strong, great, prosperous nations at their cellular level are nothing more than strong, great, prosperous families. And We used the tax code to support and strengthen families as the basis for our strong country. So, so I think he made good in principle to his promise, and I think we struck a good balance between tax breaks and financial support where it was needed, like border security and defense, with stewarding tax dollars, $1.5 trillion in reduction in spending, which is the most we've ever cut by twofold in the history of our country, and at the same time strengthened and preserved the safety net for our most vulnerable American citizens. So all while trying to be fiscally responsible with the future of generations of Americans who will no doubt inherit the debt that is that we've allowed to amass over the last at least couple of decades. And so I feel like we were fiscally responsible. I feel like we can always do more there. I feel like we gave meaningful tax breaks. I always want to give more of Americans' hard-earned money back to them, but we have a $7 trillion budget. We have safety nets and promises that we have to fulfill, and you got to strike the balance. I think we did that. Okay, guys, I think I've kept everybody here way too long, but thank you for covering this. Appreciate y'all being here. Especially thank my fellow West Texans for showing up. I'm sorry about the Ricky Bobby comment. I hope that doesn't catch.
Let it slide this time.
I don't know if that's going to catch, but General, welcome again. Thank you. And we appreciate everybody being here today. Thanks for standing with, not just me, standing with what I think the American people voted for. They voted for, I think, three things fundamentally. They voted for strong, competent leadership, common sense policies, and a commitment to putting America and Americans first. And that, I believe, is what they're getting with Donald Trump, with Republican control of Congress, and with this one big beautiful bill. With that, we're out.